when you showed up, I mean, we were going from launched 2 years ago. We're going from 2 different schools. Now we're getting into our physical location, and you're showing up in the middle of that. So then we move into this building, and we're doing tap cons everywhere, hanging sound systems, like all that stuff. But I think too, what's interesting is like you knew what you were showing up to, but you didn't know, and I think part of that is also the size. Like you knew we were a church plant, but then I think also from the vision and like how we run the organization and like the marketing and the language and like what we cast is just so much bigger than where we are. And that's vision, I mean, vision isn't what you see with your eyes open, with your eyes closed. And we speak to the things that aren't as though they are. Well, friends, welcome back to the Collab Podcast. We are so glad that you're here. Today, I'm with my new friend, Diego. Diego, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be here. It's been an amazing journey so far. And I'm super pumped, super happy for what the Lord is doing. And yeah, let's go.
Dude, I love it. And if people can't tell, you have an accent. So you're from deep South Texas, right?
Deep South, yes.
Yeah.
Texas, no.
Maybe not Texas. Where are you from, my friend?
From Cape Town, South Africa. Born and bred. Came over to the great United States of Miami to come and hang out with you guys. It's been an incredible journey. And I think the way God just opened up doors for me to be here has been amazing.
Yeah. Man, it's been awesome just to have you, and there's so much there. But so for people like just tuning in, they're like, okay, who is this guy? Why don't you kind of share a little bit of your story all the way from South Africa, and then you came for a few months to help Collab Church get launched as we got into our brand new location, which is a whole wild story by itself. Yeah. So why don't you take us back in time to how you first learned about us?
So, like you said, I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. I've got an amazing church family there. I belong to Urban Edge Church all the way
Urban Edge
in Cape Town. I'm one of the music directors. I play electric guitar. I help out with audio production things and stuff for the church, and it's just my way of serving. I'm not employed by the church or anything, but that's where I think God has gifted me. And we started this journey with Instagram, actually. So our great friend Chad, who's a social media influencer now, he doesn't like us saying that, but he is.
He didn't start there though. Yeah, barely had a few hundred, and then he was like, I really need to find electric guitar players. So he said, I'm going to post every day until I find one. And
I think it was day 19 popped up on my Instagram feed because like I follow a lot of worship content and guitarists and all of those things. That's kind of where my algorithm's at. And so obviously that just popped up because Chad was looking for a worship electric guitarist. And I remember he did the song, I forget the song's name. Anyway, but he did a song cover, and he was like, "This is what the song would be without electric guitar. I really need an electric guitarist." And then I decided I wanted to kind of add the electric guitar parts for him, and just to help share the content. And obviously, the more people share it, the more it'll go. And my initial thought was like, let's help this guy out, this random guy on Instagram. Kind of DM'd each other afterwards. The video did really well. I mean, Chad's videos always do really well. And we just started chatting, and he was like, hey, let's jump on a call. And we had a conversation, and I said, you do know I'm in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm halfway around the world. There's no way that I can like actually come help your church out because like the distance is just too far. And I'm pretty sure you're probably looking for someone local. And he said something to me that was really cool. He said, let's just have the conversation. We never know what God's going to do. And I think that was one of the most important things because for me, I wanted to serve. I had a conversation with God about a year and a half ago where I kind of had to go into medical retirement. And I said to the Lord, because my eyesight is so bad and I had to kind of leave the corporate world, I said, I want to serve even if I'm blind, even if I can't do anything. My heart is to serve. I don't know how that's going to happen, but that's what I want to do. And that's what I've been doing for the last year and a half. And then that kind of conversation went with Chad, and I said, look, I'm just trying to help you guys out. I don't know how it's going to happen. And he said to me, let's see what the Lord does with us. And then you and I had a conversation about the church and where it's at. And then we said, hey, like, let's see if I can come over to Miami and to kind of come help and serve, and let's see how that goes. And I want to pause there before I go on with how God has opened other doors. I don't know if you want to add something to that story.
No, I think it's great, man. I think everything you said has layers to it. And that's what I love about your story and conversation. I think first thing that's just fascinating to me is Chad saw a need, and like we say around here, if you see something, say something, but also do something.
Yep.
And a lot of people just stop on see something, say something. And the problem with that is it's easy to complain about stuff. And it doesn't take someone brilliant or a great leader to find a problem. The secret is, how do you find a solution or create a solution? And so what Chad did was he began to, hey, I'm going to create a solution. And I think also on his journey, a lot of people are like, why didn't you look in the church or look at the youth group? Well, little news flash update. We don't have a youth group yet. We're a young church. We're only 2 years old. So we're still moving forward. But then also we had exhausted all of our people and resources here. And so we just began to go figure out what that looked like. And he thought it was going to happen in Miami, but he actually began to go viral overseas, Venezuela, Argentina, India, South Africa. And so we started getting like all of this traction. And I think it's funny because sometimes when there's a need in your life or your organization, you can think, oh, there must be a solution nearby. Yeah. But what I'm discovering more and more, especially in an international city and in a church that looks a lot like Corinthians, is sometimes your solutions are far away location-wise, but they come close because God puts the same heart and mission together.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool point, because a lot of people asked me the same question back home. They said, are there no guitarists in America? Like, why do you have to go? Yeah. Like, why do you have to fly halfway around the world to go play for a church when the country's so big? There should surely be someone. But it's
I got to pause you. It's so funny because literally some people, it's like, they have a problem showing up on time for their planning center request, and you took a flight overseas. Oh, that's so funny. That cracks me up.
It's crazy, but it brings back to that point that you said, that sometimes God just brings people together who have the same heart, the same mindset. And that's what it's kind of about. Growing the church isn't about a person, isn't about a place, but it's about people coming together who have the same collective vision to actually do something and grow the gospel and spread the news. And I think that's what we kind of did with this whole cross-country worship team trip, if you want to call it that, because I came from halfway around the world to kind of fit into a church where everything just went smooth. And I think that was part of my journey as well, of how God just started opening door after door after door. And that's when kind of I realized that, hey, surely this must be in God's plan if all these doors are opening miraculously with stuff that I didn't even know. Because, I mean, our initial conversation, I remember, like, you asked me a very specific question. You said, what is my expectation coming to Miami? And I know that there was context behind that in terms of like being a paid musician, or like where you're going to live or how you're going to do things. And my answer to you was, I don't know. I don't have an expectation, because all I'm doing is I'm allowing God to do what he wants to do. And I said, however that looks, I don't have a personal expectation, but I expect God to move.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think sometimes God leaves you in a deficit because that deficit is a destiny for someone else.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we have deficits in our lives, we're trying to find solutions, and the best solutions are always people. But the reason that people fix that problem is because God is also fulfilling something within them. And I think that's just important to remember in any season, because sometimes you'd be like, God, why is this a problem? Why is this a hole, a gap? But sometimes it's a gap with a specific person. There's a part of a story, and that's what's amazing through this revelation of, like, God had this house ready for a season to impact your life. In the same way you've served us, it's also been an incubator for you to, like, develop you in a crazy way. But how you got here was, like you said, you followed the favor. And so why don't you explain that? Because a lot of times people say that, pastors say it, we read devos about it, but it's like, what does that practically look like? Because you're a young chicken, but you're not a spring chicken. That's Oklahoma language there. But so, you're mid-30s and you have 2 kids, and you took this radical step of faith. And a lot of times we can hear about following favor like that, and you think young 20s, or like, I'm going to go to YWAM or a master's commission. But, like, you did this kind of in the prime of your career life, and it all worked out. But why don't you kind of expand on that? Because I think there's a lot of people that maybe they're seeing the first door of favor, but they're like, how do I walk through that? Like, and actually see the fruit of it.
Yeah. So from a personal perspective, it wasn't always like that. I mean, we all know that walking this Christian walk isn't the easiest walk. The Bible doesn't promise us that it's going to be easy, but the Bible does promise us that God will provide through every circumstance. And the start of my journey, kind of like you said, I was in the prime of my career. I had an amazing job, amazing salary. I was kind of living where I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to see myself as a mid-30s individual. I'd gone through a journey before that where I wasn't on the right track with God or anything, and I lost a lot of things. But then as I started bringing my faith back and going back to church and investing in my faith, God kind of restored a lot of that. So I was in a position where I was comfortable. And then my eyesight issue hit. So I've always had eyesight problems. But in this scenario, I remember it was a Sunday in October. I was serving in the evening service and I had extreme pain in my eyes because of my contact lenses.
Wow.
Long story short, I ended up in the ER, went to specialist, and the specialist basically said that the contact lenses are causing damage to your corneas. So you can't wear them anymore. We don't know what the fix is. We don't have an exact fix, but we need to kind of walk this journey and see what's going to happen. But that meant that I couldn't do my day job anymore because even with glasses correction, I think it's not good enough for me to kind of read and do the analytical work that I did. So that process kind of took 6 months where I became medically boarded. I got early retirement. Medically retired in my mid-30s, and it was a kind of joke around my friends and family that I'm 35 years old, I'm retired. But that's when I had the conversation with God, and I said, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I want to serve, and I want to I want to give my life essentially to your work, to your service. And that was kind of the hard part of the journey, because now I'm in a position where I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know, I can't work, I can't do anything. And I started this journey with getting new contact lenses, going to trials, medical trials for my eyesight. And that's kind of how I started working a lot more closer with my church. My church back home, Urban Edge, has been amazing. My pastors, Pastor Sean, Pastor Andre, Pastor Ed, they've been amazing support, helping me work through this journey of this new life phase. And that's kind of where the difficult part is. So like you said, a lot of people just see the favor, but they don't see the hard journey before that. And this was part of the hard journey where I had a lot of learning and a lot of things that I needed to grow in. And that's kind of what led up to in June this year when I saw Chad's post. And again, I was just like, let's be a servant, let's help out. And we started having these conversations. And because of the position that I was in as a retired 35-year-old, I didn't have a lot of finances available. I had essentially what had happened was my retirement package paid out, but in South Africa, it has to pay out into something that pays you a monthly income, and it's an investment and it has to grow. So you don't have a lot of cash available. So one of our first conversations was like, I don't have just cash on hand just to take a random trip to the US and sustain myself, and our exchange rate's really bad in favor of the US, so things would be expensive. And we started this journey of, we don't know how God's going to provide, but you said that if this is from God's will, then God will provide for it. He will like open doors, open finances, things will just happen. And that's kind of when I said yes to the Lord. I had a conversation after we chatted, and I was like, Lord, I think this is where I'm supposed to be. This is the journey I'm supposed to go on. And through that, like a week or two later, my church phoned me. Is like, hey, we want to sign off on the project to get into our auditorium. And I had been doing little side business to kind of just bring in a little extra income. And the church was like, cool, we want to get you on as the contractor. We want to push through with the project. It was initially only supposed to happen in 2025, but everything got just worked out in such a way that things happened with the project, because we did the entire audio system install into the new auditorium, and that released finances to me to be able to kind of like do this Miami journey. And that itself was a miracle, because like I didn't profit off the church, because a lot of people would be like, hey, you did this project and you just profit off the church. I did not, because my agreement with my home church was like, I just need to cover expenses, and we were very transparent with ins and outs and transactions and things. And that
you
kind of
saved them a lot of money.
I did save them. So I should have made like, if I was a normal business person, I should have made like 20-30% profit on a big project. I did not. I think we covered costs and I'm open about it, because I'm not here to make lots of money or anything like that off the church. I think I did like 3% margin on that, and that covered like my traveling costs, my the courier expenses. I've got like tax stuff that needs to be like, all those are expenses that a normal businesses have.
Millions of dollars, because this is a massive
It's
organization.
a big project.
I think numbers and details are important sometimes, because it's never to highlight you, but I think it also lets people understand the level of sacrifice, because great levels of favor also are followed from great levels of sacrifice. You see that all throughout Scripture. The greater the sacrifice, the greater the reward and favor on the other side. But the people that gave the sacrifice, it never was to gain the favor. It was just to gain love from the Lord and show appreciation. That's what I love about the Old Testament. When you see the greats before they became the greats, they just wanted the glory of God to be seen. And I think it's honoring to you, because you said, hey, I want to be a part of building, serving. When you're in a place where like you need finances. I mean, you're retired, and at first everyone's like, oh, that's so cool in your 30s. But you're like, not really. There's not like extra income. I didn't like win the African lottery or get like the jackpot. And so, you're like, there's still a big need. And it'd be easy to go like, oh God, this must be from you, because I can make X, Y, Z. But not every spirit that talks to you is the Lord's Spirit, and not every open door you do need to walk through. So I just shout out to you though for like how you understood that and were able to process that. But what's crazy is though, once you took the first step through one of the open doors, everything began to open up timeline. So why don't you talk about that? Because most people are afraid to take the first step, but once you do, things begin to happen. Like it's the power of momentum, and it's the power of compounding consistency. So why don't you lean into that and just kind of give some meat of what that actually looks like? Yeah.
So we started the conversation, like I said, in June. In mid-July, I needed to renew my passport and everything like that. And sometimes that can take quite a long while in South Africa, just because of government delays and things. I renewed my passport within a week, which is supposed to happen, but like sometimes it gets delayed. So that itself was a miracle. I initially needed to book an appointment with our Home Affairs department. The first available dates were like 2 months down the line kind of thing. But then I happened to get an appointment that the next Friday. So like that was one door that opened. Got my passport just over a week later, which was the next step. I needed to make my visa appointment with the US consulate. I did that. And I had so much help in doing that. By mid-July, I had my visa appointment. So, I mean, that's literally a month from when we started this conversation. In July, we started the project with my home church, which needed to be done by the first, or I think we had a goal for like the 8th of August or something like that. No, it was the 15th of August, somewhere there around, because the church wanted to do a women's event. We kicked off that project. Everything just started running smoothly. There was 1 or 2 delays, but by August, that project had finished. I had my visa approved. I remember in the beginning of August, I went to go look at flights, because we were chatting about dates and when I could potentially come. And I went to our local flight travel agency, sat there, and we looked at flights, and I had a conversation with the Lord, and I said, because it's so long travel, I want to fly either business class or premium economy, because I'm not afraid to ask God questions, like, because He can do anything. That's my viewpoint. And I sat there, and the travel agent looked at flights, and we initially obviously just looked at economy because affordability, and we're obviously not like, we don't have the massive budgets and things like that. And then out of curiosity, I said to him, hey, like, can we look at what a premium economy or business class ticket would cost? And I know normally those tickets go for, like, the premium economy is about $4,000, $4,500, and the business class is like closer to 10. And he looked, and he had this shocked look on his face, and I was like, what do you? He's like, here's a premium economy ticket for the price of an economy ticket. Like, I think it was like $1,500 to $2,000 versus like the $4,500. And I went on a Delta's website on my phone, and I looked, and I was like, all I could see was $4,500, $4,000, $5,000 for the ticket. And then I was like, okay, like, let me think about this, and how many tickets are left? He said there's 1 ticket left at that price. There's only 1. And like, I don't know, something in the Holy Spirit just jumped to me, and I said, let's do it. I could just do it. Booked the ticket, and he asked me, do you have a visa? And I said, I don't have my visa yet, but I've got my appointment. And he's like, my advice is don't book the ticket, because like, you never know if you're going to get your visa or not. There's a whole process. And I was like, the Lord said, I'm going to Miami, so book it. Booked the flight tickets. I mentioned to Chad, and at that point in time, Chad was still saying like, oh, like, we don't have accommodation 100% sorted for you yet. We're still working things out. But I knew at that point, and that was at the end of July, I knew that this was a God thing, the way doors were opening and the way things were happening. we had our event at the end of August because I finished off all the project there. We had a massive women's event where at church, and the next day I flew out to Miami. So from the span of taking that first conversation in mid-June, July, August, September to August. So about just 2 months later, I was on a plane to Miami, landed here, and we went to the taco stand.
Yeah, then we went to the taco stand, gave you the best churros I've ever had, which is so good. It's crazy, man. Literally, you said, okay, Lord, I hear your voice calling. I'm going to go. And immediately, like, boom, 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 the doors open. I think a lot of times people think God can be slow or in delay, but I think a lot of times God's just waiting on us, you know, and he's saying, hey,
he's waiting for that yes.
Yeah, you're my kid. I want to say yes. I want to bless you. And it's true from crazy faith steps going across the world to literally getting your finances in order, working on your marriage, waiting until you're married for certain things of purity, you know, beginning to just understand the Lord more and diving into relationships. Like there's so much favor on the other side of a yes. And when you truly commit to the Lord and acknowledge him in all your ways, you know, he makes your path straight. And he did that, but then also he like blessed you when it came to jobs and income and other things coming through. And then you get here and it's like a whole different world, you know, because like you knew what you were showing up to, but you didn't know what you were showing up to.
I didn't. One of the biggest things to me, and like you said, like the Lord provides in mysterious ways. I know we say that a lot, but he really does. And that's what I've experienced. And what I like to tell people as well is that when you pray, that prayer says, give us today our daily bread. So God provides daily for what you need. And we started this journey in a lot of uncertainty, but God provided, like you said, day by day. It just needed that yes. So I arrived in the US and my first shock was how expensive things are. I'll never forget that $10 coffee that we looked at. And I was like, that's insane. That's like 5 times the price of what I budgeted. Because I had a budget figure in my head of, okay, this is how much I need because I'm going to come here for 2 months. We were debating between 2 or 3 months. And it's been so blessed because the work I have now like allowed me to come over and to like work remotely from the States. So all my bills and stuff in South Africa are all covered. Everything just kind of worked out. But landing here, that experience there was this culture shock. I landed in Atlanta and my first thought was I'm sitting in a Hallmark movie because like if I close my eyes, this is what I see. This is a completely different culture. Flying over to Miami was all the Spanish and the mixture of cultures coming here, and that was a big change. And then obviously meeting you guys, like one of the biggest fears I think I had a little bit of it, but people would have is like I met someone on social media and I'm coming over to these random strangers, like what ifs, and then the what ifs start playing in your head.
You're like, what if they're crazy?
What if I don't have a place to stay? What if this was like some like
it's a cult.
Human trafficking
Welcome to the Collab cult.
But it wasn't. It was definitely a God-ordained move. And we had a couple conversations at the taco stand and just driving that first day. And the more we chatted, the more comfortable I felt that this is definitely something that God wants me to do. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. You were 100% right. But I knew that I was coming to build church. How I was going to build church, I didn't know that I was physically going to drill in 10,000 Tapcons into concrete. I didn't know that, but that was fun. We first Sunday at NMB, I think, and this is the vision I have. I don't know the exact numbers of people, but it looked like there were probably about 50 people in the congregation. And the first thought that went through my head was, wow, this is a small church, because I come from a really big church. And it's like, and to me, that dynamic, that mindset shift needed to change and stuff. It's like we are building from the ground up here. We are not established. We are not like have 1,000 people coming in on a Sunday. This is new ground that we're kind of breaking. And that was the mind shift that I needed to make and the dynamic that I walked into.
Yeah. You know, it's just wild because, you know, when you showed up, I mean, we were going from launched 2 years ago. We're going from 2 different schools. Now we're getting into our physical location, and you know, you're showing up in the middle of that. So like we go, then we move into this building and we're doing Tapcons everywhere, hanging sound systems, like all that stuff. But I think too, what's interesting is like, you knew what you were showing up to, but you didn't know, you know? And I think part of that is also the size. Like you knew we were a church plant, but then I think also from the vision and like how we run the organization and like the marketing and the language and like what we cast is just so much bigger than where we are. And that's vision, you know? I mean, vision isn't what you see with your eyes open, with your eyes closed, and we speak to the things that aren't as though they are. And why don't you talk about that? Because we've had conversations of how that's really impacted you. You're like you guys play way bigger than you are, and I'm not insulted by that. I think it's encouraging because we started this thing, just me and Jacqueline in the studio with our dog, and the dog didn't make it. They're no longer here. They didn't die. We just gave it to our grandparents. One's dying on the other side. But anyway, so Bear's not with us, so rest in peace, Bear. But we started with nothing. And so now seeing what's happening. So why don't you just talk about that language, how it impacted you?
I think like you said, your social media presence kind of plays a lot bigger than what you are. But I think that is amazing because I have a thing about excellence, serving with excellence. It doesn't mean serving with perfection. You don't need to be perfect with everything, but steward what you have excellently. And Collab does an amazing job at that. And it makes you look a lot bigger and it makes you look inviting. It doesn't make you look like this small little, we need help little church here down the road, because your vision is bigger than that. And that's what you're kind of playing into. Which is great because it shows that we are inviting, we are here. Even if we're one person in the auditorium, we are here for you. And the reason I mentioned that 50-person number is because that's kind of the view that I had. But then sitting here just over 2 months later, we've tripled in size consistently every single Sunday. Yeah. We have new people come every single Sunday. We had a record number of kids in kids' church.
Yeah, on a rainy day.
This week,
which
on
in
a
Miami,
rainy day,
people treat rain like it's a blizzard.
We have the men's breakfast that will launch where our first week we had about 12, 13 men, if I remember correctly. Second week we had 23 men. So for me, just seeing that growth and seeing what God is actually doing week by week. And again, it's like you said, that pace kind of conversation where the things don't have to happen over months and years, but because a yes was said, because you said yes to God 2 years ago, because I said yes to God 2 months ago, this is where the plans are coming in, and we are seeing people's lives touched. So that's what's encouraging to me. And I've had to learn a lot because I come from an environment where everything is established already.
Yeah.
So we don't have rehearsals, like band practice for people that use that language. But we walk in on a Sunday and people know their parts, people know their place. There's a stage manager, there's a production manager, there's all these things in place that you get so complacent and comfortable that I can walk up and everything is just ready to coming to Collab, and we have to build, we have to set up our first week in NB. We have to literally pack out everything and we have to build church. A week later we had to tear down everything, come rebuild
it's all us, man.
Then it's training volunteers, it's setting up, it's doing the groundwork of actually laying that foundation and then seeing the fruit of it on a Sunday when someone raises their hand and says yes to Jesus. That's what it's about. And that's where I've had to learn to come out of my complacency of I do this every Sunday, because that is one of the easiest things to fall into when you serve so much is that it becomes just the norm. It becomes something that you're so used to, but that you just kind of on autopilot. And sometimes God needs to take you out of that comfort zone into a place where it's different, or in my case, it's had to be taken out of a place where everything runs smoothly to a place where we need to build and we need to actively work. And that's what's amazing. And the fruit is what's definitely showing.
It's cool. I love it, man. I think one of the reasons we are so big on our language and the marketing and social media is because it's a physical vision of what's coming, but also it's an invitation to what people can be a part of. And that's why people that once they get in, they realize it's not where we're going to go one day, but it really is the journey on what we're on today. Like what God's doing in this house, the miraculous miracles. I mean, people that couldn't have babies now having twins, people were throwing out backs now being healed, people on the verge of divorce getting married, people that were single now engaged. I mean, it's just over the last 2 years, it's just but God. And that's why I think people, and especially in today's world, they need to visually see an example of what that looks like. But beyond that, when they show up to the vision, they need to actually get the product. They need to get the excellence. And excellence, what it does is it creates trust. And I think we want people to come to our churches and tear down their walls and be honest and vulnerable. But if something's not excellence, if it doesn't create trust, it's hard for people to do that. I mean, hey, we're glad that you say you love our kids, but I show into the kids space and it's falling apart, and it's like you got a creepy security guard, and also like you don't have any way for me to check in my kid, and like, you know, or when I check out, it's just like, oh yeah, go into the back room and find yours. And it's like, well, what if you picked the wrong one? You know, it's like those things those matter so much to people. Or like the pastor gets up and, you know, he's not polished with his sermon, really doesn't know what he's saying, and not honoring people's time, or worship leader is just unengaged or just going through the routine. Like there's so many little details that for the haters of church can be like, oh, that's nitpicking a production, but it's not. It's honoring people. It's people's time. It's loving on them in excellence. Because when you do that, you create opportunities for people to be vulnerable, where they can be trusted, but then also for people to engage with the Lord. And that's why I just love how you say, building church. Did I say it right like that? Building church. We're going to build church. Like you say it all the time. You're like, I'm just so excited to build church. And I love how you say it, because it really is what we're doing. And in a day and age where so many people are against the church, or there's people that unfortunately have been hurt by the church for wrong reasons or right reasons, it's easy to say, why? Why does this matter? You know, you can meet God in a field. And it's like, okay, bro, yeah, for real. But a field could rain while you're out there, and it could get muddy. And also, you really don't need toddlers running around the field. At the same time, old people with wheelchairs.
And you need community.
Exactly. But let me finish this phrase, because somebody be like, what are you about to say? But like old people in wheelchairs trying to go through the field, it's not a good situation. So you need to create places that are intentional for community. Exactly what you're saying. Places for people to engage. And so do buildings matter? Absolutely. Like buildings matter because they're filled with people, and people matter. And it's a stake in the ground, letting people know, hey, this is a foundation. This is a place you can come to, and where you can actually be anchored in and find safety. You know, community matters.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the important thing for me as well. And what I've learned, and like you say, for the people that ask the question on like, why does church need to be a production? Why does it need to be like this or like that? It's because so that the vulnerable and the broken can come in and feel comfortable. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to chase someone away by, oh, this looks bad, or like you said, like my kid isn't taken care of, or I can't like let go because I have to worry about is the speaker going to fall on my head? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Because there are places that look like that.
I've been in a church where a speaker fell from the ceiling. Really? That was one of the most terrifying experiences. I went to a conference one time. Oh Lord. We were in setup, and we're doing the install and everything. And I'm talking to one of the people that's leading the event. And as I'm talking to them, I literally see this light just fall, and it's in this massive arena, and it goes and it just crashes. And they turn around, they were like, what was that? And I was like, that was a light. And we go over to it, and someone had just duct taped the cover, because I guess they locked the screw, and as the light got hot, it literally melted and fell from the very top. And praise God, no one was under there, because that would have been a different story. But what were we talking about? Because I really
we're talking about Sunday. So like, one of the comments that I've heard like a few times by people, specifically at Urban Edge, because like Urban Edge runs like clockwork on a Sunday. But the reason for that is to make it smooth and to make it easy for someone new to come in and just fit into the flow and feel comfortable, get ushered in, not have to worry about anything, not have to worry about kids, not have to worry about their car in the parking lot, feeling safe in an environment that's just easy. Because for me, and this is a personal experience for me, is that church isn't about Sunday. Church is about everything that happens afterwards. And that's what I think Urban Edge does a really good job at, and what I've seen you guys do a really good job at is following up, building community, speaking to people, being intentional about being open and knowing everybody. And you guys are in a space, or Collab's in a space where you can speak to everybody. You can be intentional, and that's what church is about. That's what building community is. So Sundays for me is there for someone to come in, feel comfortable, get connected, and then the community building happens after that. Something great that Pastor Sean does at Urban Edge is, yes, we are a bigger church. Yes, there are a lot of people. So you kind of can't expect the senior pastor to know everybody by name. But I see Pastor Sean out in the cafe area after every single service, every single Sunday. Like, doesn't matter what it is, he's out there connecting with people.
Let's go.
And that's how we build community. And you do the exact same thing. When after service, you are down there in the lobby, speaking to people, welcoming new people, getting contact numbers. I mean, we have debriefs on a Tuesday where we said, who did we engage with? Who did we meet? Let's follow up. We have a process in place. Let's get them in a group. Let's connect with people. Let's have lunch with people. Let's build this thing called church, because yes to the people who ask, why is Sunday so big? Sunday's so big so that we can invite you back and so that we can actually sit down with you and build a community with you. Because how do you expect someone to heal from something if you don't know that they're broken in the first place? The only way you're going to know they're broken is if you speak to them, if you connect with them, if you sit down with them, because they're not always going to open up on a Sunday. But when I'm having a one-on-one conversation with you, if I'm phoning you in the middle of the week saying, hey, thank you so much for coming, we really appreciate you, we want to make things comfortable for you, can we pray for you, is there anything that we can help you with? That one-on-one conversation and building community is what it's about.
It's true, man. And also, the average person doesn't just show up and like show you all their dirty laundry. It's not like you first be like, hey, how you doing? They're like, I'm doing great. Actually, I'm not. My dog got ran over, my left leg hurts, and like my tooth is falling out. You'd be like, whoa. Unless someone's really wounded, they don't share that. But what they do first is they create trust. They create, okay, is this a space I want to be? And then they get involved. And that's why Sundays matters, because you push people to secondary events, but that's really primary events for connection. But I think it's not just the Western church, but what church has forgotten in general is Sundays are for the teaching of the word, but it's also to the ministry of the Lord. And so we've really messed this up in the 20s, let's say that, because we believe first that God exists our greatest desire of the church is to reach the lost and then to help the world. And then if we have time, we'll minister to the Lord. But actually everything flows from ministering to the Lord. And so when people come in, it's like, well, why do you have music and lights and sound and production? It's like, well, a lot of creative people got together and they're doing their best to excellently minister to the Lord. And it's like, well, it's not about that. And it's like, what about the money? And what's interesting when I hear that, the only person that ever said that in scripture was Judas Iscariot. She's the lady's pouring out the alabaster jar on Jesus' feet. He said, that money could have been given to the poor. And then he's like, she's actually doing more than you can understand. And that's why I'm just always cautious, even myself, because I'll see other people do stuff and I can be like, that was a little out there. It was a little lavish. But then I go back to my own story and I go, you know what? Everyone else understands what the Lord's calling them to do and to worship. But to go back to my point, Sunday is primarily to the minister to the Lord. It's to the edifying of his name. It's the glorification of his name. It's the exaltation of his name. That is what the focus is about. We're gathering people together. Don't forsake the gathering of the saints. Yes, to be the body of Christ to encourage, but that is secondary to glorifying God. He is king. We exalt him. And so many times we don't talk about that. And I think because of that, that's where a lot of church hurt does happen, is because people came with the wrong intention first. And so they got frustrated at the product, but it's like, well, the product, I can understand why you'd be frustrated, but it was never about you first. It's always about the Lord. And people are giving their best unto him. And it's like, well, I don't like it like that. Okay, well, maybe you're called to do something else. Maybe you're called to a different organization, a different style. Like there's different ways to glorify the Lord, Some people, like worship is going to start, they're going to break out their flags and paintings and get going. And like, for me, that's not what I'm currently doing. For one, I can't paint, but I'm not going to knock that. Because, hey, that's what they're called to minister and what they're called to do. But at the same time, I think it's true of other expressions of worship. And the church needs to really come back to understanding that. How do we minister to the Lord? And that's what Sundays are first about. And then if we get that right, then everything begins to flow. Because it's like the mountain. It's like when rain falls at the top first, then it'll come down to everything else. But if we stop at the lower levels in the mountain, there'll be areas that don't get watered. And so I think starting with the glorifying of the Lord, but then from there going on to creating that trust, that excellence, and then pushing people into the secondary events for community, because that's when that space is supposed to happen. But with that, there's a responsibility of engagement. People have to actually show up. You actually have to want to build community. And pastors and leaders aren't exempt, because I think this is where pastors preach it, teach it, but really can have a hard time living it, is because we talk about get engaged, but then they also don't do it for themselves, like finding spaces where that can happen. And so in my context, what I do is I get connected with like city to city, and got all kinds of pastor friends around here. Pastor I love, he's a Presbyterian pastor in Brickell, like connect with him pretty often. Anyways, so I say all that to say, being intentional with that community is super important, but understanding first how that needs to flow, like in church and what's beginning to happen. So say all that to say, God should be glorified first, and we'll start there. But
the Bible, like the disciples asked Jesus the same question, and I'm going to paraphrase now, but they basically said, like, Jesus, we've got all these laws, but what do we do? Like, now that you're the Messiah, you came to change everything. Like, what laws do we follow? That's essentially the question that the disciples were asking Jesus. And he said it, and he put the order in place. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart. And then he said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So like you said, God first, and then the people come. So worship God, do everything to exalt him, to glorify him. Use your talents, use your gifts, use everything that you have. And it comes back down to the excellence conversation is, I'm a musician, so what am I going to do? I'm going to use my music skills to worship the Lord. That's what I'm going to do. And then the secondary part comes, like you said, with people.
It's really good. It matters so much. And I think what's funny about this day and age is how we get the opportunity to do ministry on a global scale.
Yeah.
But global scale is not always what people correlate is like, that's because of the magnitude. But we're allowed to do ministry on a global scale because of the connectivity. Like, we're doing ministry on a global scale. I'm from America, you're from South Africa, different parts of the globe. We're doing ministry together, and international ministry. Let's go, But in that, I think it can open people to a bigger vision for their life of like what God can do. Yeah. And so through this journey, what has that done to you when it comes to vision God's given for you, like what you believe? How has it opened your perspective?
I think it's made me realize that people matter a lot more than what I was used to, because, and this is just a personal journey for me. I used to be a very closed off person just because of the way I grew up, and like the experience, the life experiences that I've had. I've kind of built myself up in a way, like I've put a lot of walls up to kind of protect myself and do things by myself on my own. And my journey over the last couple of years, the last 2 years, probably has opened me up a lot more to kind of interact with people, build relationships with people. And that started at Urban Edge. We've got our little small group, our Connect group that does things. But again, I got complacent and comfortable in that, like, okay, here's my little group that can support me. And when I need things, prayer or anything like that, they're there. And then coming over to this dynamic was like, now I've got to open up even more, because like your personality is completely different from mine. You've got this open, bubbly personality. You talk to everybody. I mean, like, sometimes I watch you when we at the gas station, or like we say in South Africa, the garage.
The garage.
And we're in the store, and you just open up and you talk to everybody. You inviting, you are just asking people some question. Hey, how's it going? How's your day?
Funny. I didn't know that.
Like, you do that a lot.
That's hilarious.
We drive up to the drive-thru. First thing you do, hey, how was your day? Are you okay? And that's kind of what I started to learn from this experience, is be more invested in people, because people matter. People matter to God, and that's how you engage and how you connect to people. So it's not just being the building, it's not just being investing into the church, but Collab has invested into me, and I've learned so much as well, to be more open, to be more people's person, to be more inviting and to connect more with people, so that we can actually reach people, because we have to reach the lost.
I think one of the ways, not one of the ways, but one of the reasons I'm like that, it's really the main reason, is here's the reality. Finances will always be limited. There's always going to be another dollar needed that an organization doesn't have, but the Spirit is unlimited. And when you go out into the world trying to feed people the Spirit, like give them what they need, man, that just opens opportunities, like going out and just kind of having those wolf eyes on, looking around like, man, God, what do you want to do? What's the conversation? What's the moment? And it's not always big, like, hey, pick up your mat and walk, or like gold and silver I don't have, but in the name of Jesus, bah. Yeah. But sometimes it's just an encouraging word. It's a timely awareness. Just literally this morning, I was at my neighborhood and pulling in from a doctor's appointment, and a guy that I just met was walking around. Little backstory: this guy at the beginning of the year had a stroke, and of all things, he said it was because of stress. He was working for 5 years at a fishing company, nonstop, no days off, just so extreme, and he had a stroke because of his stress. And at this point, everything's been fine. And there's a few things memory-wise that he's working on, but they're believing a lot's going to happen. And so last time I saw him, I just said, hey, I believe in prayer, and God, can I pray for you? And he was like, absolutely. And so I prayed for him. And literally as I was pulling in, he was like, in my driveway, I was down the road. He literally stopped there and waved at me like the whole time as I pulled in. And he just wanted to tell me like, hey, that prayer is still working. Like, he told me that. He's like, it's still working like right now. I just want to say thank you. And he was just so happy. And it's crazy because for me, it was a cool moment. It was a powerful moment, but it wasn't that impactful where I was thinking about it like weeks later. Yeah. But for him, it was what he needed. But I also think that's an awareness of the Spirit, is because when you deposit something into someone's life, it's like going to the bank. There was a moment where I was there, but once I deposit, it's out of my hands. But for whoever it got deposited into, they're holding that now. And as long as they have that, just like a bank, it's getting interest. Now, praise God, God's bank is not like our banks where you barely get any interest, but like there's a compounding effect of what God is doing. And that's why I think why I carry that spirit and why that's what I preach like crazy at this house is for people to understand how you carry the Spirit of God with you. Like literally collaborate with him day in and day out to love, lead, launch people in the destiny God has for them.
And we're doing City on a Hill. Sorry to interrupt.
No, man.
There. We're doing City on a Hill at the moment. And like we've always heard this this little light of mine from like Sunday school days, let it shine, be the light of the world. We hear the stories of how we're supposed to show Jesus without even being able to say a word. Like one of the things is like you need to be able to preach the gospel without actually preaching the gospel to people. And that's kind of what I've taken a lot from this journey over the last couple of months is that I used to be the person that shies away in the background kind of thing because I'm always either backstage or in the back end doing something or not being that upfront people person. But that's not going to show the gospel to anybody. That's not being a city on a hill, letting my light shine, letting Jesus shine through me. But what you've taught me, and I appreciate a lot about it, is to be that person, listen to the Spirit, connect with people, engage, actually go out and doing a simple thing like you say, just praying for someone. Because that stays with them in this guy particular for weeks. Just saying to someone, hey, how's your day? How are you doing? I mean, something crazy that like Juan and I go to Chick-fil-A every Tuesday because it's just a thing because Chick-fil-A is the best.
Juan, you're getting a lot of shout outs right now, bro.
And about 2 weeks ago, there's the Chick-fil-A.
So you don't have Chick-fil-A in Africa,
No,
right?
we don't.
How many times have I asked you that while you've been here? So in South Africa, do you?
In Africa. No, it's not South Africa. It's in Africa.
Oh, in Africa. That's true. You represent the whole continent. I'm so ignorant. I just love to learn, man. Yeah.
That's so funny though. But this lady at Chick-fil-A, she works in the drive-thru and she is the lady that like gives your order to you. But 2 weeks ago, she had this really like, she just didn't look like she wanted to do a job. She had this downcast expression on her face and it really just didn't look great.
Yeah.
We went there this week, Tuesday, and she kind of waved at us and she was like, Diego, right? It's like, I got your order. I got everything sorted. And like that to me kind of showed that we need to be that kind of person that shows that light and that can turn someone's day around. And in that, if you can do that, then you can say, hey, is there anything I can pray for you with? Hey, like we've got a church down the road.
Just
like, would you want to come?
That's awesome.
Just your presence should be able to kind of turn someone's smile on, like let them smile, let them see that joy in you and let that overflow to them. And then you can go, hey, how is your day going? Are you actually okay? Can I pray for you?
That's cool. And then when they say thank you, you say, my pleasure. I think that's a huge thing, man. And I think that just shows how practically it can impact someone's life. And I think this conversation is literally an example of what happens when you go on the faith journey. Like you go from like just talking about your story to now you're talking about what you're passionate about and like what God has been doing in you and how that's overflowing, you know, into this new season of like what's taking place. And that's why a faith journey is so powerful because it unlocks dimensions of your life, your soul, your spirit that you don't get any other way. And within it's like not interstellar. It's like Inception. Like there's layers within layers. Because like for us, the faith journey was moving here. But if we didn't go on the faith journey of moving here, there wouldn't have been a faith journey where you could come here. You know? And in your life, if you haven't had done some other faith journey, you wouldn't have been able to have this one. Like there's other faith journeys that you get to take. But I think this is key for people. There are some people that are waiting on you post your faith journey. Like that is the reality. There's some people that are waiting on you. And everyone has a calling. Everyone's made with a purpose. We know it. We preach it. We chant it. We yell it. It doesn't matter if you believe in Jesus or Bugs Bunny is your God. Everyone believes I'm made for something because that's the heart of our Creator and it's within us. And C.S. Lewis has so many great ways to say it. But what's important to know is when we discover what our purpose is, we realize it's connected to other people. But for that second moment of connecting to happen, there has to be that primary response within every single one of us. And so I would say for you, how has that impacted you thinking about relationships now and future relationships as you're obedient to the Lord? That like you don't even have yet, but like as you begin to think about like what God could do.
I think it's changed my dynamic of how I look at relationships. Because like I said, I was very closed off in the background kind of person back in the day. But I think this journey has kind of opened up my eyes to be more upfront, be more interpersonal, be more relational to people. And I mean, that can work in personal relationships, that can work in allowing people to get saved, being able to pray for people. So like you said, like every little step we take, like that inception thing, everything is a journey. There's stuff that I needed to learn at Urban Edge. There's stuff that you guys needed to do. I came over here because there was a need for me to learn. There was things that you guys could take from me and that I could help with, and we could just build church quicker because we play to each other's strengths. But I had a manager like a while ago, like quite a few years ago, that said that, and this is in the corporate like terminology, that you've got the sliding scale of you're good at these things, but these are your weaknesses. And then every year you work on your weaknesses, and your weaknesses become your strengths, kind of thing. So every year you're growing, and every year you're developing. And I think my journey was to work on that interpersonal relational skills. And that's what my biggest takeaway from this journey is for me, is that I think I have a better understanding of what it means to be relational. And I think that will help me to kind of build easier relationships with people, to not only have personal relationships, but to invite them to church and to be more open.
It's cool. You know, I think for me on this journey, in March 27th of 2020, we wrote out our manifesto, what Collab would be. Me and Jacqueline did in our studio apartment on West Ave in Miami Beach. And it was crazy, as I was talking about it last Sunday, just reading about some of the things like God said and like the international impact. And what's crazy is you're one of the first examples of that, of like what God had put in my heart. It's like a flicker of like what's coming, you know? And how awesome for you to be the one that gets to be the forerunner of showing what God is doing. Like, hey, Chancellor, God really told you something. But then also like how amazing for us that we get to experience you, you know? And that's what the beauty of like, when you walk in what God is calling you to do, you also get to be that sign for other people, that miracle that they've been praying for. And I think that's what encourages me in this season of like seeing God's promises more, because this church planting journey has been crazy. I mean, we started this back in 2019, but most of it was just wait, still, develop, grow, which we did intentionally. We said, hey, we're going to learn the city. We're not going to steal from other people and churches. We're going to get connected with pastors. Then we're going to collaborate. Then we're going to slowly build. And like, then just God's been collaborating, bringing all kinds of people. But now we're starting to see some of the other things we wrote down, you know, which is crazy. I'm like, wow, like on his timing. So for me, that makes me go, okay, Lord, about the other faith stuff, like I've waited on having someone like you come around. I'm like, hey, it's time for me to say my yes, you know?
Yeah.
So what would you say to me and others that are on the cusp of saying yes to a crazy faith step? How would you encourage us? What would you say? Words of wisdom, words of caution, what Diegoisms?
I would encourage you, if we had a one-on-one conversation, well, we are having a one-on-one conversation.
Well, Juan's here too.
Yeah, well,
dude, that's 5 shout outs, I think, 5 or 4.
Shout out to Juan, our cameraman and audio production guy.
Juan Sanchez. There's no one like you. You're a one and only. And pretty soon when he gets somebody special, they'll be Juan Less Lonely Girl.
Oh, that is so good.
Oh, I love you. I hope people know how great of friends we are. All right. You were about to say something really important.
What I'd say to you is that the first step is saying yes. If God lays something on your heart, He will always confirm it, first of all, but you've got to say yes. There are many examples in the Bible where people just had to say yes. Moses going to Egypt, Abram saying yes to take his son to the mountain. I can carry on and on about David and Daniel and all these guys that just said yes to God in the first place. And then God will take you on a journey. But that journey might not always look like it's going to happen immediately, or it's going to happen today, or it's going to happen tomorrow. It might not look like the way you want it to be, to look like, because I think we were in a sermon, I was in a sermon, not you, but last year sometime, where our worship pastor said that when you ask God something, like you can either say yes now, you can either say yes but not now, or you can say no. Like those are the 3 things that God can say to you. And how you respond to each of those things obviously is different depending on what the answer is. But if God says yes now, and the example is me coming to Miami in 2 months, things will happen, God will open the doors, and then it's up to you to say yes and to move. If God says yes to your vision, but not now, then you've got to ask God and say, okay, what do I need to do? Because obviously I need to prepare for this journey that I'm on. And the example I can give you there is that when I said, yes, Lord, I want to serve, when a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I went through the whole disability process, I didn't know how that was going to look, but I slotted perfectly into Urban Edge. There was things there that I needed to sit back and I needed to learn. I needed to kind of absorb, and I needed to be a servant in my local church house, but I also grew a lot in my knowledge, in my skills, and there was a whole bunch of things that God needed to prepare me for. Then once I was prepared, a year and a half, 2 years later, I could say yes to you and come and build.
Wow.
So I knew that, yes, I wanted to serve, but I didn't know how that was going to look. And I said to God, like, I want to serve. And I said to my pastors as well, I said, I don't know how this is going to look. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I have no idea. But what I do know is that I want to serve. So that's kind of like you writing down in March 2022, this is the vision for Collab Church. This is what we're going to do. But then there's a journey. Then God says, yes, this is what we're going to do, but I first want you to learn X. I first want you to learn Y, and then we'll take it. I mean, we're 2 years down the road, and God is doing an amazing thing now. For me, it was 2 years of learning and just absorbing and growing in knowledge. And then my yes, it's now came in the form of 2 months. I'm flying halfway around the world to come serve in this local church. So my encouragement to someone is, if God says yes now, do it. Don't be afraid, because God will provide. If God says yes, but not now, then find out and go into your prayer closet. Ask the Lord, what do I need to learn? What do I need to grow in? Because God is going to prepare you for that step. If God says no, and this is, I chatted to, I think it was EJ that I chatted to. It's an amazing couple here in Collab Church. They were asking a couple questions. And I said to them, if God opens a door for you, that door will be easy. That door will be that. And this is just my personal viewpoint. This is not in the Bible, so don't quote me on this one. If God opens doors and He confirms things, things will happen and will happen smoothly. But if you on a journey and you have to force your way, and if you have to shove every door open, then maybe you need to reconsider, and maybe you need to take a step back and say, hey, Lord, am I actually moving in the right direction? Because if I'm coming in like roadblock after roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, then somewhere I need to take a pause and say, do I need to maybe turn left here or right here, Lord? Or like, what are we doing? And that would be my encouragement. God will give you a vision. He will give you a journey, and He will give you a process to go through, but say yes to that process.
It's good, man. I love it. Saying yes, and keep saying yes, like as you go, every step. Well, Diego, I'm glad you said yes. You know, brought you to here, our friendship and the journey, and obviously you've helped build this place from the ground up. And man, I just want to encourage you, keep saying yes, because your yes is so impactful to so many other people. And I just know there's a domino effect that's going to happen, you know, on this side of the pond, but then also as you go back home. So, but you'll go back home, but
and then I'll
not
come back.
forever. Then you come back, you know,
come back.
The gladiator. I'll see you again, but not yet, But man, I want you to know, I love you so much. Appreciate you. If people wanted to follow you, connect with you, learn about your business, maybe there's a church in South Africa that's needing a new sound system. That's what you do. Where can they get connected?
So we're on all the social media platforms. You can follow WorshipGear SA. We'll probably tag the links at the
one of the number one podcasts in South Africa.
Yes, we are. We are. I'm very blessed by the people I have behind me that help out. Shout out to Rebecca and Jason.
Let's go, Rebecca and Jason. Love you guys.
That's behind
Never
us.
met you, but I love
my
you.
co-host Alistair and Jamie. Love you guys. We. Just to give context there, we got nominated as one of the best spiritual podcasts in Africa.
Dude, let's go.
So like we're very blessed and fortunate to be able to touch people's lives in that way as well. And that is kind of the journey that kicked off a lot of what's happening here as well. So yeah, just say yes.
Boom. Just say yes, get connected. That's what we'll title this. Just say yes. Well, dude, I love you. I'm glad we said yes to Crumble Cookie because it gave us the energy to start this. Yeah.
Love you too.
Love you, bro. See you, dude.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.